Thank you, Mark. I think the American people expect to see groups like this and hope to see groups like this work together. And you're seeing it. And that's what makes me most encouraged about what we've accomplished, but also most hopeful about what we can accomplish in the future. Republicans and Democrats in the House and in the Senate can work together and can take on a tough issue. And this one looks particularly tough because on the one side you had folks saying anything less than $2 trillion was unacceptable. And on the other you had folks saying anything over $500 billion was unacceptable. And there was an insight in that dinner we had at Lisa's home. I think it was Dick Durbin who said it. He said, you know, this is an emergency provision, isn't it? We're looking not just at what we're going to do long-term for the country and stimulating the economy and so forth. We have people hurting right now. We have an emergency. So let's look at what we need to do to take care of the emergency. And that's really this bill here that Joe just described, where we all came together. And by the way, there's a lot in it that I'd change if I could, and I'm sure every one of us has things in here we'd do differently. This bill over here is less of an emergency, but also very important. And I'm just going to describe this. This last bill relates to two things: state and local aid and liability. And there's some pretty significant differences there. And I'll just note this. On the Republican side, when I talk to my Republican colleagues, I think the majority in the Senate among Republicans feel we should not provide any state and local monies. Why is that? Well, because the numbers are all over the map as to how bad things are at states and localities. Some states have rainy day funds and are telling us they don't need more money. Others are saying they need much more than we could possibly imagine sending to them. So a lot of difference in data and difference in terms of how well they've managed themselves in the past. And there's a strong feeling we don't want to just be paying for pensions that states might have needs to have filled. And so on the one side, there was the sense that, hey, we don't need additional money for states and localities. That was the Republican point of view. At the same time, Republicans are saying, we're willing to give on that if you'll give on providing liability protection so that doctors and hospitals, schools, universities, small businesses, big businesses don't get sued because people got COVID. And so that's the trade-off, providing funding for states and localities of $160 billion, and that's in this bill, and liability protections. The liability protections language is difficult to sort out, and we had to go to the experts. John Cornyn began with that effort. Oh, leave that up, Chris. Leave that one back up. John Cornyn went out with the bill in that regard, and our Democrat friends had a lot of changes they thought needed to be made, and so we brought in the real negotiator, and that's Rob Portman. Rob Portman did a heroic job in negotiating together with Angus King and finding ways to see if we couldn't improve the liability package to resolve the concerns Democrats had and at the same time provide the protections that Republicans wanted to see.